The courtroom in Richmond, Virginia, was a circus of stifled laughs and smug grins, the air buzzing with mockery as Darius Coleman stood at the defendant's table. The 17-year-old black kid, his thrift store jacket patched at the elbows, gripped the wood with steady hands, his dark eyes blazing beneath a mop of tight curls. Across from him, Prosecutor Edward Langley, a wiry man with a shark smile and a $2,000 suit, froze mid-stride, his notes slipping as Darius' voice rang out, sharp and unshaken. Under Title 18, Section 242 of the U.S. Code, it's a federal crime to deprive someone of their rights under color of law, and that's exactly what's happening here. The room detonated. Laughter choked into gasps, the jury's heads snapping up, their smirks vanishing as if slapped off. Judge Margaret Henshaw slammed her gavel, her silver hair trembling with her shout. Silence. Mr. Coleman, what are you playing at? Langley spun, his face a mask of disbelief and rage. This is absurd, Your Honor. He's no lawyer. But the gallery bailiffs, reporters, spectators who'd chuckled moments ago fell silent, their eyes locked on Darius. He didn't flinch, his fingers brushing a tarnished silver ring on his left hand, his grandma Esther's, the one thing Shed left him after the courts took everything else. It had been a slaughter until then. Langley had strutted in, painting Darius as a petty thief caught fencing stolen electronics, a kid too dumb to know better. The jury had snickered at his patched clothes. The judge had rolled her eyes at his stammering public defender. But now? Now Darius stood tall, quoting federal law like a seasoned attorney, and the room reeled. Henshaw leaned forward, her voice tight. You'd better explain yourself, young man, or I'll hold you in contempt. Darius nodded, his jaw set. I will, Your Honor. This isn't just about might, it's about her. He touched the ring again, a vow pulsing through him. They won't take anything else from us, Grandma. Langley scrambled, his voice pitching high. He's stalling. This is a farce. But the jury's gaze shifted, curiosity replacing derision. A woman in the front row leaned forward, her pen poised. Something was breaking, something big, and they all felt it. Darius wasn't just a defendant anymore. He was a spark, and the courtroom was dry tinder. Whatever came next, one thing was clear. The laughter was dead, and Langley's control was slipping fast. The kid they'd mocked was about to turn their world upside down. The trial had been a steamroller before Darius' bombshell, designed to flatten him without a fight. Earlier that morning, the Richmond courtroom had hummed with routine as Edward Langley laid out his case with venomous precision. On April 19th, a pawn shop reported a break in laptops, phones, a haul worth thousands stolen in the dead of night. Police nabbed Darius 2 days later, blocks from his home, with a backpack allegedly stuffed with the goods. He's a repeat offender, Langley had sneered, flashing a grainy photo of a hooded figure. Caught red-handed, resisting arrest, a danger to society. Darius sat stone-faced through it, his public defender, Karen Ellis, fidgeting beside him. She was green, barely out of law school, her cheap blazer swallowing her slight frame. The evidence is circumstantial, Shed muttered, her voice lost in Langley's onslaught. Circumstantial? Head shot back, pacing like a lion. We've got his prints on a phone, a witness placing him at the scene, and a kid who bolted when cops showed up. The jury smirked, their eyes flicking to Darius' patched jacket, his scuffed sneakers. Judge Henshaw tapped her pen, her patience thin. Move it along, counselor, Shed said, nodding to Langley. This isn't rocket science. But there were whole subtle, jagged ones. The witness, a jittery pawn shop clerk, had wavered on the stand, admitting the alley was dark. The prints were partial, lifted from a phone Darius swore had never seen. The resistance was him pulling away when an officer grabbed his arm, asking, "What'd I do?" Karen tried to poke at it. No security footage ties him to the break-in, but Langley drowned her out. He's a thief, plain and simple, had declared, grinning at the jury. Look at him as he scream honest? Laughter rippled through the room, a few jurors chuckling. Darius' hands stayed clenched, his ring a cold weight against his skin. He wasn't just fighting for himself, was fighting for Esther, for the house. Shed lost to a crooked eviction, for the promise Head made when she died. No more. The defense's turn came as the afternoon sun slanted through the courtroom's high windows, casting long shadows. Karen stood, her voice shaky. We called Darius Coleman to the stand. The gallery buzzed. Defendants testifying was rare, a roll of the dice. Darius rose, his sneakers scuffing the floor, and walked to the box with a quiet defiance that silenced the whispers. He swore in, his right hand steady, the ring glinting faintly, then sat, facing Langley's predatory grin. Karen started soft. Darius, where were you on April 19th? He leaned into the mic, his voice clear. At home, fixing my grandma's old radio. I didn't leave till morning. Langley pounced, cutting Karen off. Fixing a radio? Cute story. WHYD your prints end up on stolen goods, then? Darius' eyes narrowed. I don't know, maybe because I shop at that pawn shop all the time. Langley laughed, turning to the jury. He's got an excuse for everything. A regular choir boy. The gallery snickered. A juror smirked, but Darius' face stayed still. Karen tried again. Can you explain the arrest? Darius nodded. Cops grabbed me walking home. I asked why they shoved me down, said I ran. Langley jumped in, resisting, just like I said. You expect us to buy this? That's when Darius snapped not loud, but with a precision that froze the room. Under Title 18, Section 242, it's a federal crime to deprive someone of their rights under color of law, and that's exactly what's happening here. Laughter died mid-breath. Langley gaped, Karen blinked, the jury straightened. Judge Henshaw's gavel crashed. Order. What's this nonsense? Darius didn't waver. It's not nonsense, Your Honor. It's the law and they broke it. The room reeled, jurors exchanging stunned looks, Langley scrambling for his notes. He's bluffing. The prosecutor shouted, but the tide was shifting, and everyone felt it. Darius touched the ring, Esther's voice in his head. Stand tall, baby. He wasn't done up by a long shot. Langley tried to regroup, his voice pitching high. You're no lawyer, kid. Where'd you get that statute? Darius leaned forward, his tone icy. From the library, same place I learned Section 1001 makes it a crime to falsify evidence. Check Officer Reed's report. The gallery gasped, jurors leaning in as Langley sputtered. This is irrelevant. Darius cut him off, quoting again. Section 242 says if an officer uses his badge to violate rights like planting evidence, it's federal. Reed's got a history. Judge Henshaw frowned, her pen still. You're alleging misconduct? Darius nodded, pulling a folded paper from his jacket. Not the twist yet, just a tease. Reed's been cited twice for excessive force. Same guy who found my prints. The jury buzzed, a man in the back muttering, no way. Langley slammed his table. This is a stunt. He's got nothing. But Darius kept going, his voice rising. Fourth Amendment unreasonable search. They had no warrant, no cause, just grabbed me 'cause I'm black and poor. The room tilted. Jurors glared at Langley, a woman scribbling furiously, another shaking his head. Henshaw called for order, but Darius pressed on. I've got more. Title 42, Section 1983, civil action for rights violations. That's what they're scared of. Langley's face reddened. He's making this up. Darius smirked, touching the ring. Look it up, Mr. Langley. I've had 3 years to learn ever since they took my grandma's house with lies like yours. The gallery erupted, jurors turning on Langley, their laughter replaced by fury. They railroaded him. A woman hissed. Hensley shouted objections, but the judge waved him off. Enough. Submit your evidence, Mr. Coleman. Darius handed over the Papera Library printout of Reed's citations, not the full twist, but enough to crack the case wide open. The jury was his now, Langley's smugness drowning in the law had underestimated. The real bomb was still ticking, waiting to drop. The Richmond courtroom pulsed with tension, the jury's eyes boring into. Prosecutor Edward Langley as Darius Coleman stood in the witness box, his voice a blade slicing through the chaos. You're banking on Officer Reed's word, Darius said, his tone steady. But under Title 18, Section 1001, falsifying a police report's a felony. Where's his body cam? Langley gripped his table, his knuckles white, his voice shrill. This is speculation. He's got no proof. But Darius held up the library printout. Reed's past citations, his patched jacket swaying as he turned to the jury. 2 complaints for planting evidence. Same guy who found my prints. The gallery buzzed, a juror in the front row gasping audibly. Judge Margaret Henshaw pounded her gavel, her silver hair glinting under the lights. Substantiate this, Mr. Coleman, or he'll shut it down. Darius nodded, his fingers brushing Esther's ring, a tarnished silver band that grounded him. Check the arrest log, he said. Reed claimed he caught me with the bag at 11:47 p.m. But the pawn shop's alarm tripped at 11:35 miles away. How'd I get there so fast? Langley sputtered. He could have. Darius cut him off. No car, no bus, no wings. Reed lied. Jurors exchanged looks, a man in the back scribbling furiously, a woman's jaw tightening. Langley lunged forward. The prints. Tie him to the phone. Darius didn't blink. I shopped their weekly. Prints could be old. Where's the chain of custody? Federal Rule 901 says you've got to prove it's legit. The room reeled, Langley's notes slipping as he scrambled. This is nonsense. He shouted, but the jury wasn't laughing anymore. They were glaring, doubt creeping into their faces like cracks in a dam. Darius stood taller, the ring a silent vow. They won't take me, Grandma. The evidence was fracturing, and Langley's grip was slipping fast. Langley's voice pitched higher, desperation clawing through his cracks. He's a thief, Prince, witness, it's airtight. Darius stepped down from the box, his sneakers thudding softly, and pulled a small envelope from his jacket. Erase what you didn't expect, he said, his voice low but lethal. On April 19th, I was at a tenants' rights meeting fighting to save Esther's house. This is my sign-in sheet. He handed it to the bailiff, a yellowed paper, timestamped 11:35 p.m., signed by a dozen neighbors. The courtroom detonated. Jurors gasped. Langley's face turned gray. Judge Henshaw snatched the sheet, her eyes scanning it with a scowl. Why wasn't this disclosed? She snapped. Darius' gaze hardened. Because I didn't trust a system that stole my grandma's home with forged papers. I kept it closed, learned that from her. Langley lunged. It's fake. Darius cut in, his voice rising. Call the organizer, Mrs. Patel. Check her phone pics. I was there when that shop was hit. The gallery roared, a juror shouting, he's got an alibi. Henshaw ordered the clerk to verify, and the room held its breath as Langley paced, his composure a shredded rag. 10 minutes later, the clerk returned, her voice trembling. Mrs. Patel confirms photos show him at 11:40. Your Honor. The jury erupted, a woman slamming her fist on the rail, a man yelling, they framed him. Langley's objection drowned in the chaos. This doesn't change, but Darius wasn't done. He turned to the prosecutor, the ring glinting as he pointed. You knew Reed's dirty. You buried Esther's case to protect him, forged eviction docs. How many homes did you steal? The twist landed like a bomb. Darius wasn't just a kid. He was Esther's legacy. A grandson wielding law to reclaim what was lost. Langley's empire of lies buckled, the jury's fury now a tidal wave. Darius faced the jury, his voice raw but resolute. They laughed at me 'cause I'm black, poor, and young. But this isn't about might, it's about Esther. About every family they've crushed with fake charges and stolen rights. He held up the ring, its dull shine a beacon. She taught me to fight. Federal law says they can't win this way, not today. The jurors stared, their anger boiling over, one man's eyes wet, a woman's hands clenched. Langley tried one last gasp. He's twisting the law. He screamed, but his voice cracked, swallowed by the crowd's boos. Judge Henshaw's gavel crashed, her face stern. Deliberate, she ordered, her tone final. The jury filed out, but their glares at Langley said it all. 8 minutes later, they returned, the foreperson standing tall. Not guilty, he declared, his voice a thunderclap. The gallery exploded, cheers, sobs, a reporter's camera flashing. Darius exhaled, Karen grabbing his shoulder, whispering, You're unreal. Langley sank into his chair, hands trembling, his career imploding in real time. Henshaw dismissed the case, her gavel sharp. Mr. Langley, she added, this court's referring you and Officer Reed to the DOJ possible federal violations. The jury applauded, their rage a weapon turned on the prosecutor. A spectator uploaded the scene, Langley's smug laughter, Darius legal. Barrage going viral before the dust settled. Darius clutched the ring, Esther's strength alive in his victory. Langley's downfall wasn't just a loss, it was a reckoning, and the room felt its weight. Justice had roared through a kid they'd mocked, and the echoes were just beginning. Edward Langley stumbled from the courtroom, his $2,000 suit soaked with sweat, his shark smile gone. The viral video is early taunts, Darius' federal law quote hit millions of views overnight, trending as #LangleyDown. By dawn, the DOJ launched a probe, uncovering a cesspool, forged eviction records, payoffs to cops like Reed, a decade of corruption. The Richmond DA fired him, his law license revoked in a public hearing broadcast live. You're a disgrace, the bar president spat, as Langley sat, head bowed, his empire ash. Lawsuits followed, tenants' head displaced, families like Esther's, draining his accounts dry. His wife filed for divorce, taking their son and the house had bragged about. I won't raise a child with a crook, she said, slamming the door. Alone in a dingy apartment, Langley faced federal charges, Title 18 violations, up to 10 years. The final blow came when his own father, a retired judge, disowned him in a scathing letter leaked online. You've shamed us all. Langley sat in the dark, a broken man, Esther's ring haunting his dreams. A symbol of the kid had undone him completely. Darius walked out into Richmond's humid night, the ring cool against his skin. Reporters swarming, but held back by his mom, Lena. She pulled him close, her voice thick. Esther'd be so proud, baby. He nodded, eyes stinging. I did it for her, Ma. Offers flooded in Georgetown. Law sent a scholarship letter. The ACLU wanted him as an advocate. He chose law school, vowing to fight for families like his. Esther's loss fueling every step. No one else loses their home, he told Lena, clutching the ring. The neighborhood erupted, block parties, murals of Darius with the ring raised high. Kids calling him Law Boy. He spoke at a community center, his voice steady. This isn't just my fight, it's ours. Esther's ring says we don't give up. The crowd roared, but Darius stayed grounded, the weight of her memory keeping him humble. He wasn't a star yet, just a kid who'd turned pain into power, the ring a symbol now etched in Richmond streets. It wasn't about fame, it was about the promise had kept, and the one's head yet to fulfill. Darius, when sparked a firestorm TV panels, dissected Langley's corruption. Protests demanded Reed's badge. The ring became a rallying cry, activists wearing replicas, chanting, "Law don't bend." The DOJ reopened Esther's case, exposing a real estate scam tied to Langley's schemes. Dozens of homes returned. Darius met with affected families, sharing Esther's story, his quiet resolve igniting theirs. "Keep fighting," he said, the ring glinting. Truth cuts through. Online, the story exploded. #DariusLaw trending, comments raging. "Kid's a hero. Systems gotta burn." He shunned the spotlight but spoke once more. At a rally, "They laughed till I made him listen. We all can." His words lingered, a challenge to a world still wrestling with justice. Langley's fall was a start, but the war wasn't one just begun. Darius Coleman stood on the cracked steps of his grandma Esther's old house, the Richmond dusk wrapping the street in a soft, golden haze. The eviction notice was long gone, peeled away after the DOJ ruling returned the property as victory written in the fresh paint and the quiet hum of a home reclaimed. He rolled Esther's silver ring between his fingers, its tarnished surface catching the fading light. "We got it back, Grandma," he whispered, his voice thick. The neighborhood buzzed beyond kids playing, a mural of him with the ring, glowing under streetlights, but here, it was just him and her memory. The promise had kept still echoing in his chest. Across town, Edward Langley sat in a jail cell, his tailored suits traded for an orange jumpsuit, his hands cuffed as a federal marshal read his charges. Title 18. Violations, conspiracy, a decade behind bars. The TV in the guard station looped the viral clip, his courtroom laughter. Darius Law quoting takedown, a legacy reduced to a punchline. His wife was gone, his son wouldn't speak his name, his fortune seized to pay restitution. Alone, he stared at the concrete wall, the ring's image burned into his minda. Kid's defiance that had stripped him bare. The world had moved on, leaving him a ghost of his own arrogance, a warning etched in pixels and steel. But Darius' story didn't tie up neat. The house was his again. Georgetown law loomed on the horizon, yet the system still towered, cracked but unbroken. Had won a battle, not the war. As he stepped off the porch, the ring in his pocket, questions swirled. How many Esthers were still out there, fighting silent evictions? How many kids like him faced courtrooms that laughed first and listened never? The mural downtown stood tall. Darius, unbowed, a symbol of truth, but it wasn't enough. Not yet. The city pulsed around him, protests fading, news cycles shifting, but the ring's weight stayed. A call unanswered. "If this hit you," the narrator's voice would cut in, sharp and urgent. "Don't let it die here. Share it. Shout it. Fight it." Darius turned their laughter into law. What can you turn yours into? Justice isn't a gift, it's a grind, and it starts with us. The screen would fade, Darius' silhouette against the skyline, the ring's glint a spark in the dark. He walked away, steps firm, purpose raw, the next fight brewing in his bones. Langley rotted in his cell, a relic of a system exposed. Darius carried Esther's legacy, a beacon for a world half awake. The story ended, open hope flickering, shadows looming, leaving one truth hanging. The law could bend, but only if someone dared to push. And somewhere, in the quiet of a reclaimed home, a ring whispered that the push wasn't over.